Nama Om Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Devishesha Srinivadi Praskajanti Sadhari Vanchakalpatrubhya Sakrapasandubhya Vacha Patitanam Bhavanebhya Vaishnavibhya Namo Namah Chaitanya Charitambuja Mukundali Opajay Isham Prashadam Achana Paramapyam Abhava Pangam Lagayate Selam Mokamavata Akshitan Takvatamam Bande Krishna Chaitanya Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Mahavam. So it gives me great pleasure to glorify my senior Siksha Guru, His Divine Grace, Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja. Namaram Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prasthaya Vitali Srimati Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja Iti Namane. And this verse also written by Hari Prasad, glorifying Maharaj, is very beautiful, very wonderful. Gopal Gata Ratinam Yati Shinha Gour Govinda Dasikam Satatam Namami. To him who bestows condensed attraction for Gopal, to that lion-like sannyas, Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, the great spiritual master, constantly offer obeisances. So, I'll speak for 12 or 13 minutes. Simply from a purely objective point of view, tatastha. Tatastha means neutral or objective. If we examine the life of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, we can see he has the characteristics of a highly advanced devotee. As far as my realization is concerned, I accept him as a Uttama Bhagavat, not a Madhyam, and definitely not Kanishta, of course. I accept him as Uttama Bhagavat, but more than that, I accept him as a eternally liberated soul. In other words, Nityasiddha. And we can see from his how he was born, his childhood, when he was perhaps 8 or 9 years old, running away from home to join the temple, his reading of Chaitanya Bhagavat, his family members, his deep realizations of Radha and Krishna. Even before he met Srila Prabhupada, there are excerpts from his diaries written in 1972, 1973, before he met Srila Prabhupada, discussing how Krishna is begging like a sannyasi for the affection and the attraction or the attention of Radharani. So I think many disciples of Srila Prabhupada were very nice, and there are many advanced disciples, ladies and men, and of course grand disciples we accept. And we hope in the future also that many advanced devotees and even associates of Lord Chaitanya will take birth within ISKCON. But being objective, we have to honestly admit that Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj was in a different category. We can see, as I mentioned, his birth, his statements, his realizations, and his books also, Embankment of Separation. His realizations were very deep. And his example for me, his most important example, not only was he spiritually advanced, and I accept him as an eternal associate of Radha and Krishna, having come down to this material world to preach, but he stayed within his spiritual master's institution, ISKCON, although, as we well know, but we won't go into the details, there was some misunderstanding of some of his statements. There was misunderstanding of his position Honestly speaking, I attribute this Nimatsaranam Satam to envy. If one is a little envious of another personality, then you can't see that person's glories. So I attribute it to a Kanishta quality. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in chapter 8 of Jivadharma, which I humbly suggest you all read. It's Vaishnava Behavior, chapter 8, where he describes in more detail the characteristics of Kanishta, Madhya and Uttama. He says that sometimes Kanishtas can be even inimical towards Uttama Bhagavats. They can be inimical towards Uttama Bhagavats. So Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja experienced some unsavory negative statements, but he remained within the ISKCON mission. This is the point. So although there may be difficulties and there may be misunderstanding, especially in the age of Kali, the age of Kali means the age of mismanagement, the age of quarrel, the age of misunderstanding. Still, we should remain within Srila Prabhupada's mission and try to rectify whatever mistakes we may see, but from inside ISKCON. Not that we step outside ISKCON, but we remain within the mission. So Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja, for me, represents this most important characteristic. Of course, the most important characteristic is that he was an Uttama Bhagavat, very attached to Radha and Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But a secondary characteristic is that, you could say, Tatashta Sarup, Tatashta Lakshanam. Sarup Lakshanam means primary characteristic, Tatashta, secondary. That he remained within the mission of his spiritual master and tried to preach, and successfully preached, establishing Krishna consciousness in Bhubaneswari, translating books, and then traveling to different parts of the world to try to preach to the preachers. In this regard, he came to South Africa twice, and in 1995 I was fortunate. He came and I had his darshan and I spoke with him, and he spoke about Rupa and Raghunath. He spoke something about Braja Bhakti. It was very nice. I went with him to the airport. Then he came again in 1996. But at that time I was in Cape Town and I hadn't been notified that he had come. And he stayed briefly. And then of course we know on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's appearance day in Mayapur, he departed for the spiritual world. Of course, he's already a resident of the spiritual world. So, my humble request is we follow in his example. And although we may see mistakes, we may see decisions made which aren't according to Siddhanta, but we still stay within the ISKCON mission, remain favorable to it, knowing that it's Prabhupada's personal contribution to our sampradaya, and following the example of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja, try to rectify whatever we can if we see some mistake, if it's appropriate to say something. Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja had that potency and power to speak out. That doesn't necessarily mean we should all do that as well. He had the power, he had the potency. But we should read his books, identify with him, pray to him, and try to follow in his footsteps. So I see him as my most senior god brother. Although there are many exalted god brothers that I bow down and touch their lotus feet. I have Siksha gurus, Atma Pradaksha gurus, but Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja is on a platform a different higher platform. And I pray to him every day, many times during the day, because Prabhupada said, the fact is devotional service is bestowed by the blessings of a pure devotee. Chaitanya Charitamrita Leela, chapter 22, introduction. The fact is devotional service is bestowed by the blessings of a pure devotee. Quote, only a devotee can give Lord Krishna to another devotee. So Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja can bestow that, he can give that, if we have attachment to his instructions and his example. So it's a great honor for me to even speak his name, His Divine Grace Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja, just to say his name, Yan Sabasmaranam Poi Chaitanya Charanam, simply by remembering the name, Yan Smaranam, just by remembering the name, Poi, I get Chaitanya Charanam, the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, I'm always remembering Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja's name, and I pray one day that I can understand his Leela and his pastimes in the spiritual world. This should be the aspiration of every devotee, that we can understand the spiritual activities, aprakat Leela, of our Diksha Guru, Param Guru, and our Guru Varga, or Parampara. So Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj can give that sputi, that inspiration, that realization, and I can understand, possibly in the future, with his mercy, I may be able to understand something about his divine pastimes, not just his pastimes here in the material world, born in Ariya, a school teacher and this and that, but his actual eternal Nitya and Naimittik. Nitya, eternal pastimes. Naimittik, occasional pastimes. So this should be the aspiration of every Vaishnava, to understand the eternal pastimes of personalities like Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta, Gokishore, Bhaktivinoda, Rupa and Raghunath. His Divine Grace, Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj Ki Jai. His Divine Grace, Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj's followers, disciples, Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.